other day, I was going through the garden and I was looking at my vegetables and my peas and peas. It's kind of interesting. I look at 10 pods of peas and only about 2 or 3 of them had 8% of the peas. And so I started thinking about it and doing some research, and that's what I'm starting to figure, wow. I think this is what they go on your sales organization. You got 100 people. Probably about 30 of them, they're probably doing about 90% of the work. So I'm wondering, okay, that leaves us 60 people. And they're doing 10%. I'm thinking if you're going to help your sales organization grow, you got to give those people an offer they can't refuse.
Hello, Tony Cole, CEO of Anthony Trading Group, and welcome to Sales Guy Unplugged. Actually, Sales Guy is
Alfredo Pareto.
he was an Italian economist who discovered many, many years ago that about 80% of the wealth in Italy was held by 20% of the persona. And so over the years, that theory has held true. And many of you know it as the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. Now, based on our demonstration here, if I go back to the numbers, what I learned from Perry Marshall in the 80-20 of sales and marketing is if you double click on the 80-20, you end up with about 36% of your sales team responsible for over 90% of the revenue. Now imagine for a second that you're in front of your board of directors or your board of advisors and you're having that discussion. You just can't talk about this. You have to talk about the other side of that equation, where you have 60% of your people responsible for less than 10% of your revenue. If you were on the board, there's going to be an obvious question. What are you still doing with those folks, right? So here's the interesting thing about how this ties into growing the business. Let's pretend for a second that you have 1,000 clients, and it's your own personal book of business or for your entire company. The same thing holds true. You're going to have about 333 of those responsible for 960, okay? 333 will be responsible for 96% of the total revenue that those 1,000 people represent. And what's interesting is if you do the math, okay, let's just pretend for a second that this is $1 million, and I'll let you do the math. You divide that by the 330 people, you come up with an average revenue per account. And then if you do that on the bottom 67%, offhand, you're going to have to sell 10 or 11 or 12 of those smaller types of accounts to equal one of these accounts. So here's our message today. As you go into the marketplace, identify what are the demographics of your top 33%. What do they look like? What are the things that they have in common in terms of industry, size, specialty? How well do you work with them? How did you get introduced to them? And in your marketing efforts, you want to focus on those prospects in the marketplace that look like your top 33%. And don't sell anybody other than what looks like that. As always, thank you for joining us. This is Sales Guy Unplugged.